Okay, YouTube, what's up? Wolf 190D back, and there is something I would like to go over today. What I'm really looking at trying to do anyway, and don't mind all of this grim favors stuff, but what I would like to do is sort of point out something I think to be relatively interesting, and I think this might, well, actually, I think I can get most all of them done. But I would like to take this by small installments, keep the videos a little shorter. So what I'm looking at today are going to be the Lilith shrines. Yeah, it's tedious. I know it's tedious to run all of those down, but here's the kicker. First and foremost, it's a way of getting up your reputation. At least it's a good way of doing it on your main character anyway. You can do this on your secondaries too. But it's a good way of not only getting up your reputation, i.e. renown in the various areas, getting those maxed out, working towards those ultimately 4 extra Paragon points. But it's also a really good way of upping your stat points on all of your characters. So keep that in mind. The more Lilith shrines you find, the more your other character's stats are going to benefit from it. So personally, yeah, I think it's a good investment of a little bit of time, especially if you're just running around finding them. Hey, all the better if you have a horse. It's that much faster. So what I'm going to focus on with this first installment here are the Fractured Peaks. Okay. Now, as you can see, you've got them dotted around. How many of them? There's 28 total in the Fractured Peaks. So it's the numerically the least amount of Lilith shrines. And you do get bumps to each of your stats as you go through this. So it does behoove you to track all of these down. And like I said, maybe easiest to do it on your main character. That way you don't have to worry about it with any of your secondaries. But here we go. So at any point, if you need to, pause this. I'm going to try to focus in on some of the more troublesome locations. But here's your general outline. And it does help. It does help if you have the entire map explored. So I would recommend doing that too, nailing down all of those pesky little areas, especially some of these little tiny passes that transition between the larger areas of the map. There are tiny areas in order to get that complete map explored bonus. But tracking down these Lilith shrines does help. So up here in the north, you have all of these in the Sarkova Pass. Easiest way to do that, Menestad, and then run around. There is one in Core Dragon, down in the southern portion of the Core Dragon area. Yeah. And then, of course, the Frigid Expanse. You have waypoints, and waypoints do help. So anyway, let me zoom in on a couple of these. There's one located right here in the transition between the Sarkova Pass and the Frigid Expanse. There is one right there. It's in the vicinity of the Forsaken Quarry. There's that one. Okay. Now, if you, of course, follow along on the map, and I know there's other maps, so, you know, if you're more of a, if you're more into just finding a picture of the map that was marked, sometimes it can be difficult though, zooming in on the map and things like that. There is one on this northern stretch, and typically you will find that any of these little bump outs on the edge of the map or in these types of these impassable areas, there we go, that's where you're going to locate most of those. Okay. So getting out to the edge of the Fractured Peaks, there is one tucked right on this little island right here. If you have the this little temple type of thing, I think it's like a library or something. It's close to the Cathedral of Light, where you go and do that mission where you find Inarius. There are a couple in that vicinity, and there's one right here. It is on the south side of this little spit of impassable areas. So if you're running around down here, you're going to go meet with Inarius and stuff like that. You come all the way around and it's right there. And then of course, getting into Kyovashad, there's one right outside of Kyovashad. There are a couple in this really weird labyrinthine kind of thing here. This one right there, of course, in a pocket. This one right here is in another little tiny pocket right in there. Nostrava. So a couple of these areas are going to have to unlock, or well, you don't have to unlock them per se. You don't have to clear these strongholds. The core dragon, Nostrava, and let me see here. There's one other small one here. Oh yes, Malnock. There are some tucked away in those. You do not have to clear the stronghold before you can get those altars of Lilith. Just be aware. Actually, I think this one you have to, if I recall correctly, the one in Nostrava, you do have to at least start that because it's blocked off otherwise. You can't. It's sort of an impassable area until you start to run through that. So that one, yeah, you do have to at least begin the stronghold mission in order to do that. And then, of course, in the south, you have one almost at the transition area between the Fractured Peaks and Hawazar. It's down in that little road there. And then this one is, of course, in the vicinity of Mallwood. It's not really though, because if you look, there's an impassable area there. You have to go all the way around in order to get it. So the best way to do that is to come from Margrave, I think, and then just come around the north end of all of this business. There's a little cellar type of thing there that you can do on the way. So yeah, I do recommend picking up the Altars of Lilith. They benefit every single one of your characters. So it really makes sense to pick those up. And not to mention, it also works towards your area renown if you are trying to get to those extra Paragon points. And really, I just have one area left at the time of this recording. I have just the one area left to, and I think it's let me see here, it would be Kyrgyzstan. I think I have to track down all the ones in Kyrgyzstan. So I'll ultimately recap on this. But for now, I wanted to focus on the Fractured Peaks. And the one last area actually is sort of in the middle of the map. Here's Kovashad over here, and you have the Hallowed Ossuary. You have the Immortal Emanation. The Immortal Emanation. Oh, there we go. That's a name, isn't it? You have one to the north of that. You have one to the south of that. And then in Malnock, you have one inside of Malnock right there on the southern part of that. And then, of course, down here, you have to be able to get into this little area. There's one in the middle of all of that. All right. So if at any point, I hope that helps anyway, give you some more exact locations, zoom in, zoom out, and then the whole map in general. But there it is, the Fractured Peaks Lilith Shrines. I hope that helps. As always, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.